Hi, I'm Andy and welcome to my channel about crypto. In today's video we'll look at the current market situation, what's next for Bitcoin after hitting new all-time high, and also we'll look at a few altcoins which I think are particularly interesting at the moment. Let's have a look at Bitcoin's chart first. So of course the first thing to note here is that new all-time high which we hit last week, just shy of 67,000. There was a bit of a retracement afterwards, so my hope that we'll repeat this movement here, which was late last year, well, that's not going to pan out because of course we had this quite substantial dip now, and that movement was pretty much just a constant move up with some sideways movements here and there, but without actually any significant dips. So it's more akin to what we experienced here. But this is still very bullish scenario for Bitcoin because we had so far 10 daily closes above 60k. The way things are going is extremely likely that we'll have another daily close above 16k. Not only that, we had 2 weekly closes above 60k, and it looks like Bitcoin held really well around that 61k level when the price dipped from the new all-time high. So far it looks like today is going to be a nice green candle and quite a bit of a move up. It seems to be trending around 62, 63k level. So I'm hoping that we'll close around 63. And I wonder if that's going to be the first candle of the next move up. So I'm really hopeful that this is the beginning of the next leg up, essentially towards potentially 75, 80k. Of course, there is a chance that we may have a bit of resistance at the new all-time high, so around 67, but I think there's a pretty good chance that we will actually just go straight past it and towards 70k and above. If we look at some other indicators, for example, daily RSI, we can see that actually since we hit that new all-time high, Bitcoin dropped from around high 70s to around 60-65 level. So it's no longer overbought. And also if we look at crypto fear and greed index, that's now on 72. If we look at the last few days, we were in mid 70s for the last few days, but before that we were actually in mid 80s or low to mid 80s. So we dropped from extreme greed down to greed. So essentially it's not quite as bullish sentiment, but that's not a bad thing. That's essentially it's less likely that will be just going parabolic up and have a blow off top, but instead it's more likely that we are slowing down a little bit and building up for the next leg of the market cycle. If we can repeat it quite a few times in a row, I think that's great overall, because it will extend the cycle, and hopefully that will mean that we will reach higher all-time high eventually. The market peak will be higher than if we just go parabolic up and then top out, I don't know, at around 100k or so. If we look at PlanB's model, it's quite interesting actually how well his model so far is matching the reality. So according to his model, Bitcoin's price was supposed to hit at least 47k in August, 43 in September and 63 in October. And so far, all three of those predictions were correct. These figures mean hitting that number at some point during that month. That doesn't necessarily mean closing the month at that price, but just simply reaching that figure at some point during the month. The next two are the interesting ones, and I mentioned that in one of the previous videos, that while I agree with his predictions, at the time 63k in October was still a bit uncertain, but I said at the time that I perfectly agree with this, that we will hit 63k or more in October. But whether we will hit 98 in November and 135 in December, I thought that was a little bit on the bullish side. And I still think that's the case. I think that's a little bit optimistic. I think these figures are perfectly achievable in this market cycle, but I'm not entirely sure that we will hit them so soon. Just to put it on the chart, if we were to hit was it 98 in November. Okay, that would essentially mean something like 96, 98. Okay. That would mean movement more or less like this. And then if we zoom out, I mean, I suppose it's not impossible, but it is a pretty big jump, and that's assuming hitting 98k at the very end of November. We've seen strange things happening in crypto, so I wouldn't completely discount it. And like I said, his predictions panned out perfectly correct so far. So it is possible, but I think it's still a touch optimistic. I think we're heading for 75, 80k maybe in the next few weeks, and then it's likely that we may get a bit of a retracement. If we look at ETH, well, it had a wick up to almost its previous all-time high. I think it was literally just a few dollars short, and then sort of dropped back to that level where it's been sitting the last few days, so around somewhere between 4,000, 4,100 or 200, which is certainly good level. ETH of course had slightly slower move up than Bitcoin, but I think it's still performing well. As long as Bitcoin is on the run, well, I expect ETH to go up, but not necessarily at the same pace. So yeah, I expect ETH to follow, but until people start taking out some serious profits from Bitcoin and putting them into ETH, I don't expect ETH to rally like crazy. What ETH usually does is, it's actually quite interesting. It happened in the previous market cycle as well, but in 2017-18. But if we look at what happened earlier this year, if you look at ETH, well, until January it was still sort of 1200 or something. It was then moving up and down a little bit, and then, well, it went to a new all-time high, but that crazy move up to over 4,000, 4,500, that was basically doubling the price in a space of 2 weeks, this move right here. So, and like I said, similar thing happened in the previous market cycle. So basically with ETH, I'm expecting it to go up quite steadily, but the real gains, I expect them to happen in a massive parabolic move at the very end, and that will be certainly after Bitcoin hits new all-time high. So yeah, I think for ETH there's still quite a bit of time to go. And then Cardano, well, that's just been doing nothing for a while now. People often joke that Cardano is a bit like a stable coin, and if we look at the last, well, pretty much the whole of October, where Bitcoin's been absolutely rallying, Cardano is just going in almost straight line around $2.10. But if we zoom out, that's actually pretty common for Cardano. We had those accumulation phases before. If I change the exchange here to Binance, that will give me more data. I mean, as you can see, there are long periods when Cardano is not really doing much. We had one here as well. So this is quite typical, and especially after what was happening in September, when we had the release of smart contracts, when there was a lot of hype, a lot was going on. The price of course rallied to the new all-time high. Now, again, I've mentioned that in a couple of videos before, I expect it to go sideways for quite a while. So I think I'm still extremely bullish on Cardano. I think its time will come. I still expect it to hit around $10 in this market cycle, but I don't think it will happen for a while. So it's actually not a bad price point to accumulate more ADA if you don't have enough, or if you don't have a position in ADA yet, because that should still do easily 4 to 5x from the current price. So it may be quite a good opportunity to start DCA into it, because I think there's still quite a bit of time before that will start going up. And then let's have a look at overall state of the cryptocurrency market. So the overall market cap of crypto market is at $2.7 trillion. So it's been consistently going up. Bitcoin's dominance sits pretty strongly around 43%. It was actually around 45, I think even pushing 47 at some point. So basically it means that even though there's more and more money pouring into the market, Bitcoin's dominance is not going down at all. It stays the same. So a lot of that money is actually going into Bitcoin. And as well, Bitcoin price is going up. So of course the market cap of Bitcoin is getting bigger and bigger. What I think is really interesting are the few altcoins that had some pretty impressive performance recently. So one of them is Altura. I mentioned this one a few times before. And if we look at the last 14 days, it's been absolutely tearing it up from around 4 cents to around 15 cents, new all-time high earlier today. And then if we look at, say, last 90 days, so I started talking about Altura somewhere around here in early September, when it was somewhere between 2 and 3 cents. So if you invested at that time, well, at that point in time, you would be up somewhere between 5 to 7x by now. I think we'll still see much more from Altura. Market cap is still only 85 million. It still has plenty of potential. And well, it combines NFTs and gaming. NFTs are at the moment in the bear market, and gaming, well, we are still in very, very early stages of crypto gaming. So I think it's perfectly reasonable for Altura to reach $1 and above. So essentially I would expect it to still do another 5 to 10x from this point within the next few months. It probably won't be until early next year, but I think it still has plenty of potential. In fact, if it does have a bit of a pullback, I'm thinking about adding possibly a bit more to my bags, because I got it really cheap, so I don't mind adding a bit more, because the potential is still there. I wouldn't get into it right now, of course, because it's literally at or just under its all-time high, but definitely one to watch. Another one is Blank. And again, I mentioned this one a few times. Blank had a bit of a rough ride in this market cycle. So it had this massive spike in April when there was a bit of buzz around it because of some crypto influencers. And then the price just crashed. If we ignore this little dip to zero, which we had here, which was to do with some issues with the token, and then the token being reissued here, for quite a while, it's been sitting at pretty much its all-time high of around 30-40 cents. And I've been talking about it a lot in early September, or since early September. Recently it started picking up really nicely. It's now at $1. So again, that was an opportunity to make about 2.5 to 3 times gains. I think it was around 10.15 earlier. And Blank is essentially a secure private wallet where other users cannot see your transactions. They cannot just look up your wallet address, your public address, and see what's in your wallet or what you've been doing. Those transactions are hidden. So of course there's a massive use case for this token, and I think it will do really, really well. They taking their time with releasing the wallet, but I don't see it as a bad thing. Essentially, they're getting multiple audits to make sure that everything works really well, that everything is secure, that everything is fine. So I think that's once eventually it's released, well, this is a pretty good chance to be the new MetaMask, to replace MetaMask potentially. And if it does become as popular as MetaMask is, or similar level, I think that will go, I think they will absolutely skyrocket. And the market cap at the moment is still only 23 million. So I think it's still a really good price to get into it. A lot of people were buying it at much higher prices. I have to admit that my average purchase price for this token was probably just under $2 because I bought some on this way up here. No, sorry, actually on the way down. And then I bought some more when it dipped. So yeah, it's still definitely a very good buy at this price. The previous all-time high was $5.50, and that was purely based on hype and speculation. Once they have an actual working product, I think that can easily hit $10 or above. The next few projects are essentially all within Cardano ecosystem. And the reason why I picked them is because if we go back to ADA's chart, well, like I said, it's been doing nothing for a while now, right? So there is very little interest at the moment. If you look on crypto Twitter and if you look at various other YouTube videos, there isn't that much excitement about ADA and about projects on Cardano. The focus, I feel like, is shifting now a lot towards Bitcoin because of its all-time high. There is a fair bit about NFTs because they're in a bear market, so it's a great buying opportunity. And in fact, I'll be releasing video tomorrow about some NFTs. And ADA, well, it became a bit boring in terms of activity, well, in terms of the price movements. So a lot of those projects within the Cardano ecosystem, their prices dipped quite a bit. We can see Card Starter, which was picking up really nicely here in August and early September, and then it sort of just fizzle out a bit and it sits around $10, $11. We have OccamFi, which has had a bit of a bumpy ride, but its all-time high was around $16, then $17.50, then dropped massively, but it was doing pretty well considering the state of the market overall during the summer, around $10 or so, and then it had a massive dip recently, picked up a bit, but it still seems to be a bit weak. And then we have Jaro Wallet, I think I pronounced that correctly, which again, it picked up a bit recently, but if we look a longer time frame, I mean, it's still in the gutter comparing to where it was previously. It was at almost exactly $1, and now it's bouncing around 15 cents or so. These are, of course, just few projects. I think they're all pretty good buys at those price points. I think they're all very good buys at those price points. But of course, you can look into the whole Cardano ecosystem and see what else is there and what other projects you may be interested in. Because I think they're all present really good buying opportunity at the moment. Essentially, that's a great accumulation phase for those coins. And then once the focus shifts back to Cardano, and once the price of Cardano starts pumping, well, they will go up as well. But as they are much smaller projects, they're likely to skyrocket much more because you just need less money to be pumped into them in order for the price to go up. I mean, this one is just 23 million market cap. OccamFi is a bit bigger, 120. Card Starter 81 million. They are not huge projects, so I think there's a ton of potential there. So just to recap this video, I think we are in a really bullish market phase overall. Bitcoin, even though it had a bit of a correction, I think is doing really, really well, and it looks like it's on at the beginning of its next leg up. And in terms of altcoins, Blank, I think it's a brilliant buy. Of course, it all depends when they will release their wallet and how successful is it going to be, but there seems to be a lot of buzz about Blank recently again, so I think it will be a really good project, and I think there will be a lot of hype around it, so I think it's still a good buy. And then projects within Cardano ecosystem, because ADA has been going sideways, so the prices of those projects are pretty good at the moment. So definitely good buying opportunity right now. I think that's it for today. I hope you found this video useful. There is another one coming out tomorrow, and that will be focused purely on NFTs. So if you're interested in them, check out the video tomorrow. Other than that, as usual, if you find these videos helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Thanks. Bye.